Hey everyone, I'm Peter Stories here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now settle in, get cozy, and let yourself relax. My name is William, and I saw Rachel for the last time 3 meters ahead of me on the trail before she simply disappeared. I've been a ranger at Olympic National Park for 8 years. 8 years of dealing with lost hikers, broken bones, and tourists who think they can tackle Hurricane Ridge in flip-flops. I've seen everything the wilderness can throw at you, and I've got a scientific explanation for all of it. Hypothermia causes hallucinations. Dehydration makes you see things. Panic makes rational people do irrational things. But Rachel Morrison didn't just wander off. She didn't fall into a ravine. She didn't get turned around and head in the wrong direction. She walked into a wall of fog that shouldn't have existed, and the fog swallowed her. It was 2:47 p.m. on October 15, 2018. I remember because I checked my Garmin GPS right after it happened, trying to find some anchor point of reality to hold on to. Rachel was a graduate student from University of Washington, conducting research on old-growth Douglas fir ecosystems for her master's thesis. 23 years old, red North Face jacket, hiking boots that had seen better days, and a laugh that reminded me of my daughter Emma's. I'd been escorting her to the research site about 4 miles up the Hoh River Trail, standard protocol for researchers working alone in the backcountry. The morning had been crystal clear, unusual for October in the temperate rainforest. No weather advisories, no fog warnings from the meteorological station. Visibility was perfect. That's what makes this so goddamn impossible. We were walking single file on the narrow trail, Rachel ahead of me, chattering about mycorrhizal networks and carbon exchange between trees. Normal academic stuff, the kind of conversation that usually put me to sleep. But Rachel had this enthusiasm that was infectious. She kept stopping to photograph moss formations and measure tree circumferences, scribbling notes in a waterproof notebook. "The data from this grove is going to revolutionize how we understand forest communication," she called back to me, adjusting her pack straps. "Dr. Chen thinks we might find evidence of interspecies collaboration that..." The fog rolled in like a freight train. I've lived in the Pacific Northwest my entire life. I know how marine fog behaves. It creeps in gradually from the coast, following river valleys and settling into low-lying areas. It doesn't materialize out of thin air in the middle of a sunny afternoon. It doesn't move with purpose. But this fog did. 1 second I was looking at Rachel's bright red jacket against the green backdrop of ancient trees. The next second, a wall of white vapor, thick as cotton, surged up the trail from the direction we'd come. It moved wrong. Too fast. Too deliberate. Like it was hunting. "Rachel, stop," I shouted, but she was already stepping into it. The fog enveloped her instantly, not gradually, like normal mist. It wrapped around her like living tentacles, and I swear to God I heard it gurgle, like water going down a drain, but deeper, organic. I lunged forward, my hand reaching for where she'd been just seconds before, but there was nothing. The fog was cold against my skin, colder than it should have been, with an oily texture that made my stomach lurch. It smelled wrong, too. Not like ocean mist or forest damp. It smelled like decay. Old meat left too long in the sun. Rachel, where are you?" I pressed my Motorola radio to my lips, trying to reach her on the emergency frequency we'd established. Static. White noise. Then, underneath the crackling, something that might have been breathing. The fog receded as quickly as it had come, rolling back down the trail like it was retreating. 30 seconds, maybe less. When it cleared, the trail was empty. No Rachel, no scuff marks in the dirt, no broken branches, no signs of a struggle. Nothing. I stood there for 5 minutes calling her name until my throat was raw. I checked my GPS, marked the coordinates, took photos of the area with my department-issued camera. I followed protocol because protocol is what keeps you sane when the world stops making sense. But deep in my gut, underneath all my training and experience and rational skepticism, Something primal was screaming that what I'd just witnessed wasn't natural, wasn't possible, wasn't right. If this story is giving you chills, smash that follow button for more supernatural horror. What would you do in William's situation? Comment below. I radioed park headquarters immediately. This is Ranger Collins, badge number 247. I have a missing person situation on the Hoh River Trail, approximately 4 miles from the visitor center. Female, 23 years old. Last seen at GPS coordinates 47.7938 degree N, 123.9238 degree IW. Copy that, Collins. What's the nature of the disappearance? I stared at the empty trail, my mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. How do you explain that someone walked into fog and vanished? How do you tell your supervisor that the fog moved like it was alive? She wandered off the trail. I lied. Possible disorientation. Within an hour, we had a full search and rescue operation underway. 12 rangers, 2 search dogs, and a helicopter from Coast Guard Station Seattle. I guided them to the exact spot where Rachel had disappeared, but the dogs found nothing. No scent trail leading away from the path. No trace of human passage through the dense undergrowth. The helicopter pilot radioed down that he couldn't see any movement in the canopy. No bright colors that might indicate clothing or gear. It was like Rachel had simply ceased to exist. By nightfall, we'd expanded the search radius to 6 square miles. Nothing. That night, lying in my bunk at the ranger station, I replayed the incident over and over. There had to be a logical explanation. Maybe Rachel had slipped and fallen when the fog came in. Maybe she'd gotten confused and wandered off in a direction I hadn't seen. Maybe I'd been more distracted than I remembered. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that wall of white vapor moving up the trail with deliberate intent. I felt the wrongness of it against my skin. I called my wife Sarah from the landline in the break room. Her voice was thick with sleep. Will, what time is it? I'm sorry, baby. I know it's late. Something happened today. A hiker went missing. Oh no, are you okay? I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass, watching the darkness between the trees. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, how well do you know the old stories about this place? The local legends? Sarah was quiet for a moment. She'd grown up in Forks, born and raised in the shadow of these ancient forests. If anyone would know the folklore, it would be her. Why are you asking? Just curious. Will, you don't believe in that stuff. You always said the only things to worry about in the woods are bears, cougars, and stupid tourists. She was right. I'd spent years debunking ghost stories and supernatural claims from visitors. People who swore they'd seen Bigfoot, or heard voices calling their names from empty trails, or felt invisible hands pushing them toward cliff edges. I had scientific explanations for all of it. Pareidolia, infrasound, sleep deprivation, suggestion. I know. Forget I asked. Kiss Emma for me. Tell her Daddy will be home soon. But I couldn't forget. And over the next 3 days, as our search for Rachel expanded and then contracted and finally was called off, I found myself researching the history of the Hoh River Valley. What I found made my blood run cold. The local Quileute tribe had stories about the forest. Old stories passed down through generations, about mists that hunted. They called it Setial, the hungry fog. According to their oral traditions, it was a spirit that had been corrupted by human greed and violence, transformed from a benevolent forest guardian into something that devoured people whole, keeping them alive somewhere between the physical world and the spirit realm. The stories dated back hundreds of years, but there were modern disappearances too. A pattern that emerged when I started cross-referencing missing person reports with weather data. 1987. 2 hikers vanished during an unusual fog event on the Sol Duc Trail. 1992. A family of 4 disappeared after witnesses reported seeing them enter a wall of mist that came out of nowhere. 1998. 3 college students last seen walking into fog that moved like it was alive. 2003. A park ranger, my predecessor, filed a report about fog with unnatural movement patterns just before he went missing during a routine patrol. 2008, twin sisters from Portland, experienced hikers, vanished during what weather stations recorded as a localized fog event of unknown origin. Each incident followed the same pattern. Clear weather, sudden fog, people walking into it and never coming out. Each case eventually classified as missing persons presumed dead, cause unknown. I was reading the 2003 case file when my radio crackled to life. Collins, you copy? This is Collins. We've got another situation. Hikers reporting unusual weather conditions on the Hoh River Trail. Same area where you lost the Morrison girl. My blood turned to ice water. What kind of conditions? Fog. Coming in fast from an unknown direction. Visibility down to zero in a matter of minutes. I was already grabbing my gear, checking my flashlight batteries with shaking hands. Any civilians in the area? Negative. We cleared the trail after the Morrison incident. But Collins, the weather station isn't showing any atmospheric conditions that would create fog. Barometric pressure is steady. No temperature inversion. No marine layer movement. This doesn't make sense. It made perfect sense. Horrible, impossible sense. The thing that had taken Rachel was coming back. I reached the trailhead just as the sun was setting, painting the forest in deep reds and purples. The other rangers were setting up a command post, their voices tight with professional concern and underlying fear they wouldn't admit to. Collins! Ranger Patricia Sims jogged over, her face pale. You know this area better than anyone. What are we dealing with here? I looked down the trail where the first wisps of unnatural mist were beginning to gather between the trees. It wasn't rolling in from the coast like normal fog. It was seeping up from the forest floor, pooling in the shadows, growing thicker with each passing minute. I don't know. I lied. But I did know. And as I watched the fog begin to move, not drift, not flow, but move with deliberate purpose, I realized that Rachel hadn't just disappeared 3 days ago. She was still here. Somewhere inside that hungry mist, trapped between worlds, calling for help in ways I couldn't understand. The fog was coming for me now. It had tasted my presence when I'd reached for Rachel. It knew my scent, my fear, my guilt. And somewhere in its impossible depths, I could swear I heard a voice calling my name. A voice that sounded exactly like Rachel's. My radio hissed with static, then cleared. In the brief moment of silence before the static returned, I heard something that made my heart stop. William, help me. William, I'm still here. In the fog, I'm still here. The other rangers were staring at their radios, confusion written across their faces. But I knew they'd heard it too. Rachel's voice, calling from inside the hungry mist that was now spreading across the trail like spilled milk. Collins, Ranger Sims grabbed my arm. We need to evacuate. This fog isn't natural. But I was already walking toward it. Rachel was in there, alive, trapped. And I was the only one who'd witnessed what had happened to her. The only one who could find her. The only one who could bring her home. The fog reached for me with tendrils of impossible cold, and as I stepped into its embrace, I felt Rachel's hand close around mine in the darkness. Then everything went white. Holy hell, that was intense. Did that ending blow your mind? Like if you want more terrifying Ranger stories, follow for daily supernatural horror, and comment your theory about what really happened to Rachel. I read every single one. My name is Christopher, and I should have known something was wrong the moment the wind stopped. October 15th, 2018. Yellowstone National Park, 3:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was checking my Garmin GPS when Emily Martinez vanished 3 meters in front of me on the Ferry Falls Trail. 1 second she was there, auburn hair catching the filtered sunlight through the lodgepole pines, her yellow North Face jacket a bright beacon against the autumn browns and golds. The next second, she was gone. Not gone like she'd wandered off the trail. Gone like she'd never existed. I've been a ranger for 12 years. I've seen hypothermia turn rational people into stumbling zombies. I've tracked lost hikers through 3 feet of fresh powder in sub-zero temperatures. I've pulled bodies from the Yellowstone River that had been missing for weeks, but I'd never seen someone simply disappear. The wrongness hit me like ice water in my veins. That sixth sense I've carried since childhood. The one that helped me find Sarah Chen in 2014 when she'd fallen into a hidden ravine. The one that warned me away from the avalanche-prone slopes during the March rescue of 2016. It was screaming at me now. But it was too late. Emily had been hiking alone, which was her first mistake. 22 years old, graduate student from University of Colorado studying mycology. She'd gotten her backcountry permit 3 days ago, planning to document rare fungal specimens in the thermal areas near Ferry Falls. Her parents, Maria and David Martinez, had called the ranger station that morning when she missed their scheduled check-in call. She never misses her calls. Maria had sobbed into the phone at 6:23 a.m. Never. Something's wrong. I'd promised I'd find her. I'd looked Maria Martinez in the eye through the laptop screen during our video call and sworn on my daughter Sophie's life that I'd bring Emily home. David Martinez had gripped his wife's hand so tight his knuckles were white, and he'd whispered, "Please, she's all we have." Now, standing on the trail where Emily had vanished, I fumbled for my radio with shaking hands. My wedding ring caught on the antenna as I raised it to my lips. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Mackenzie. I have a situation at Ferry Falls Trail, mile marker 2.3. Static crackled back. Then Sarah's voice from the communication center. "Go ahead, Christopher. I've lost visual contact with Emily Martinez. Need immediate backup and SAR deployment." "Copy that. Lost visual how, Christopher?" I stared at the empty trail ahead of me. The yellow leaves of the aspens shimmered in the afternoon light, but there was no movement, no sound except the distant crash of Ferry Falls. Even the birds had gone silent. She was right in front of me, then she wasn't. More static. "Christopher, you're breaking up. Say again?" I checked my phone. 3 bars of signal. The radio was functioning perfectly. I'd tested it an hour ago. But Sarah's voice sounded distant, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. "Emily Martinez has disappeared. I need search and rescue dogs, everything." "Christopher?" The voice coming through my radio was different now. Softer, younger. "Emily?" My heart hammered against my ribs. "Emily, is that you?" "Christopher, help me. I'm lost. I can't find the trail." The voice was coming through my Park Service radio. Emily Martinez's voice, clear as if she were standing next to me. But Emily Martinez was a civilian. She didn't have access to Park Service frequencies. My rational mind knew this was impossible, but the voice was perfect. Every inflection, every slight Colorado accent. The way she'd said my name when I'd introduced myself at the trailhead 3 hours ago. "Emily, where are you?" "Stay where you are. I'm coming." "I'm scared, Christopher. It's getting dark, and there are things moving in the trees." I looked up. It was 3:52 p.m. We had at least 3 hours of daylight left, but as I watched, shadows seemed to be creeping across the forest floor like spilled ink. "Emily, which direction did you go from the trail? Give me landmarks." "I can see water, a big waterfall, but it's wrong, Christopher. The water is flowing upward." My blood turned to ice. I was less than half a mile from Ferry Falls and I could hear it in the distance. Water flows downward. Always. It's physics. It's reality. Unless reality wasn't working anymore. "Emily, I need you to stay calm. I'm going to track your signal." I pulled out my phone and opened the SAR tracking app we used for lost hikers. Nothing. No signal from Emily's phone, which should have been pinging our emergency network automatically. "Christopher?" The voice came through the radio again, but it was different now. Distorted. Like Emily was speaking through water. "Christopher, why did you let me disappear?" My hands started shaking. "Emily, what do you mean?" "You saw me vanish. You watched it happen. You could have stopped it." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Because it was true. I had watched. For just a split second, I'd seen Emily's face change. Her eyes had widened in terror. Her mouth had opened in a scream that never came, and she'd reached toward me as if some invisible force was dragging her away. And I'd stood there frozen until she simply wasn't. Emily, that's not... I tried to help. You let me die, Christopher. The voice was colder now, angrier, and there was something underneath it. Something that sounded like static or wind, or maybe the sound a snake makes when it's about to strike. I looked at my radio. The display showed it was receiving a transmission, but the frequency was impossible. 158.7400 MHz. Our emergency channel was 150 1600. The frequency showing on my radio didn't exist in the VHF band. Christopher? This time the voice came from behind me. I spun around, nearly dropping the radio. The trail was empty except for a single set of boot prints in the soft earth. My boot prints. Emily's tracks had vanished as completely as she had. Christopher, I'm hurt. I need help. The voice was coming from the trees now, somewhere to my left. Emily's voice, but wrong somehow. Too perfect. Like a recording played back at slightly the wrong speed. I stepped off the trail, pushing through the low brush toward the sound. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel my pulse in my temples. The wood smelled wrong. Not like pine and earth, but like copper and something sweet and rotten. Emily, keep talking, I'm coming. It hurts, Christopher. It has me and it hurts so much. I crashed through a stand of young pines, branches tearing at my uniform jacket. The voice was getting closer, but it seemed to move every time I got near. First from a dense thicket of serviceberry bushes, then from behind a massive Douglas fir, then from somewhere overhead in the canopy. Emily, what has you? What's hurting you? You know what it is, Christopher. You can feel it. You've always been able to feel things others can't. She was right. The wrongness was getting stronger, like static electricity before a lightning strike. The hair on my arms was standing up and there was a taste in my mouth like I'd been chewing on aluminum foil. Emily, I'm going to get you out of there. Just keep talking. I don't think you can save me, Christopher. I don't think anyone can. It's too strong. Don't say that. I've never lost anyone. Never. There's a first time for everything. The voice was getting distorted again, like Emily was speaking through a broken speaker. And underneath it, I could swear I heard something else. Laughter. Cold, inhuman laughter that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I pulled out my phone and called dispatch directly. Yellowstone Communications. This is Jennifer. Jennifer, this is Christopher Mackenzie. I need immediate backup at Fairy Falls Trail. Missing hiker Emily Martinez is in contact via radio, but I can't locate her position. Christopher, we don't have any record of Emily Martinez making radio contact. Her family hasn't heard from her since yesterday morning. That's impossible. I'm talking to her right now. Christopher, your radio isn't transmitting. We show you offline since 3:45 p.m. I looked at my radio. The display was dark, dead, but Emily's voice was still coming through the speaker, crystal clear. He's lying, Christopher. They're all lying. I'm the only one telling you the truth. I dropped the radio like it was on fire. It hit the ground and the battery pack separated, but Emily's voice kept coming from it anyway. You can't trust them, you can only trust me. Come find me, Christopher. Come deeper into the woods. If this story is giving you chills, smash that follow button for more supernatural horror. What would you do in Christopher's situation? Comment below. My rational mind was screaming at me to get back to the trail, to call for backup, to follow protocol. But Emily's voice was getting fainter and I could hear real terror in it now. Christopher, please. It's pulling me deeper. If you don't come now, you'll never find me. I looked back toward the trail. It was maybe 50 yards behind me, but it might as well have been 50 miles. The trees seemed to have closed in, creating a wall of green darkness. I couldn't see the path anymore. That's when I heard my daughter's voice. Daddy? Sophie. 5 years old, gap-toothed smile, favorite purple dress. Sophie, who was safely at home in Livingston with her mother, playing with her toy horses and probably asking when Daddy was coming home. Daddy, why aren't you coming home? Mommy's crying. The voice was coming from my radio, which was still lying in pieces on the forest floor. Sophie's voice, perfect in every detail, but wrong in every way that mattered. "Daddy, there's a man at the door. He says you sent him. He says you're not coming home anymore." My legs went weak. I grabbed a tree trunk to keep from falling. Sarah and Sophie were safe. They had to be safe. This thing, whatever it was using their voices to manipulate me. But hearing Sophie's frightened voice, even knowing it was fake, was like having my heart torn out through my throat. "Daddy, please come home. I'm scared." I pressed my hands to my ears, but the voices kept coming anyway. Not through my ears. Through my bones, through my teeth, through the base of my skull. "Christopher?" Emily's voice again. "Christopher, I can see your house. I can see your family. They look so peaceful, sleeping." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called home. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Hello?" Sarah's voice groggy. She'd been napping, which she did most afternoons since starting her 3rd trimester. "Sarah, thank God. Are you okay? Is Sophie okay?" "Chris? What's wrong? You sound terrible." "Just check on Sophie, please, right now." I heard her get up, heard her footsteps on the hardwood floor, heard Sophie's door open. "She's fine, honey. Sound asleep with Mr. Bunny." "Chris, what's going on? You're scaring me." "Lock the doors, all of them. Don't let anyone in until I get home." "Christopher?" Sarah's voice was concerned now. "Are you having one of your episodes?" Episodes, that's what we called them. The times when my intuition went haywire, when I'd sensed danger that wasn't there, when the boundary between my gut feelings and paranoid delusion got blurry. It had happened twice before, once after the Collins rescue in 2015, once after we'd found Tommy Brennan's body last spring. No, this is different. This is real. There's something wrong out here. "Okay, I'm locking the doors, but Chris, come home, please. This job is eating you alive." The line went dead. I stared at my phone. No signal, no bars. But I'd just had a full conversation with my wife. "She's lying to you, Christopher." Emily's voice, soft and reasonable, coming from somewhere above me. I looked up into the canopy of lodgepole pines, their thin trunks reaching toward the gray October sky. "Your wife doesn't want you to come home. She's tired of your episodes. She's tired of you." "Shut up. She's been talking to a divorce lawyer. Did you know that? Jennifer Peterson on Main Street. Your wife wants to take Sophie away from you." "That's not true. Check her browser history when you get home. Check her phone. She's been planning this for months." I wanted to scream, to run, to tear through the forest until I found whatever was doing this and beat it to death with my bare hands. But I forced myself to stand still, to breathe, to think. Emily Martinez had vanished in front of me. That was real. I'd witnessed it with my own eyes. But everything since then, the radio voices, the impossible frequency, Emily's accusations, Sophie's terrified voice, it was all wrong. All impossible, which meant I was either having a complete psychotic break or something supernatural was screwing with my head. I'd bet on supernatural. My gut had never steered me wrong before. "Emily, if you're really out there, if you're really Emily Martinez, tell me something only she would know." Silence. The forest held its breath. "Tell me what you studied. Tell me why you came to Yellowstone." More silence. Then, slowly, Emily's voice began to speak, but the words were wrong. "I came to feed. I came to hunt. I came to taste fear and desperation and the exact moment when hope dies." The voice was still Emily's, but the thing speaking wasn't human. Couldn't be human. "I've been waiting so long, Christopher. Waiting for someone like you. Someone who can hear me, really hear me. Someone whose mind I can crawl inside and make my home." I backed away from the sound, but it followed me. Not just Emily's voice now, but a chorus of voices. Men, women, children, all speaking in perfect unison. "We are everyone who was lost. Everyone who disappeared in these woods. Everyone who was forgotten." I recognized some of the voices. Janet Morrison, Missing hiker from 2003. The Hendricks family who'd vanished during a camping trip in 1987. Voices I'd heard in missing person reports and desperate phone calls from families who'd never gotten closure. We are the voices in the trees, Christopher. We are the whispers in the wind. And now you're going to join us. I turned and ran. Branches tore at my face and hands as I crashed through the underbrush. My radio bounced against my hip. My badge caught on a low pine bough and ripped free. Behind me, the voices followed, calling my name, pleading for help, promising relief from the terror if I'd just stop running and listen. I burst through a thicket of aspen saplings and found myself in a small clearing. In the center stood a single Douglas fir, ancient and massive, its trunk easily 6 feet across. The bark was scarred with deep gouges, as if something with very large claws had been sharpening them. At the base of the tree was a pile of personal belongings: backpacks, hiking boots, water bottles, cell phones. Some of the items were new, others weathered and old. I saw a child's pink jacket that could have belonged to Amy Chen, the 8-year-old who disappeared with her parents in 1994. And there, on top of the pile, was Emily Martinez's yellow North Face jacket. You found me, Christopher. I spun around. Emily Martinez stood at the edge of the clearing exactly as she'd looked 3 hours ago. Auburn hair, hiking boots, cargo pants. But her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too deep, like looking into a well at midnight. Thank you for coming. I knew you would. I knew you couldn't resist. You're not Emily. No, she said, and smiled. I'm not. Her mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open, and I could see rows of teeth like a shark's, receding back into a throat that seemed to go on forever. When she spoke, her voice was a harmony of every missing person I'd ever searched for. But I will be, just like I was Janet and Amy and all the others. I collect voices, Christopher. I collect the last words of the lost. And yours are going to be particularly sweet. The thing wearing Emily's face took a step toward me, and the forest around us began to change. The trees grew taller, their branches reaching down like grasping fingers. The sky darkened to the color of old blood. The air filled with the sound of whispers. Thousands of voices all speaking at once, all saying my name. Christopher. 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 I reached for my sidearm, but my holster was empty. I'd left my gun in the ranger station. We weren't supposed to need weapons for search and rescue. Your family will never know what happened to you, the Emily thing said. Just like all the others, you'll simply vanish, and I'll use your voice to call the next one. Maybe I'll call your daughter, little Sophie. She'd come running if she heard Daddy calling for help, wouldn't she? Rage flooded through me, hot and pure. Not Sophie. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't touching my daughter. Over my dead body, yes, it said, and its smile grew wider. Exactly. I picked up a fallen branch, thick as a baseball bat and heavy with moisture. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was something. The thing laughed at me, the sound like wind through a graveyard. You can't fight me, Christopher. I'm not flesh and blood, I'm sound itself. I'm every voice you've ever heard, every word that's ever been spoken in these woods. How do you kill a voice? But as it spoke, I noticed something. The pile of belongings at the base of the tree. They weren't just random items. They were arranged in a pattern, a circle with Emily's jacket at the center. And underneath the jacket, something was glowing with a soft blue light. You collect voices, I said, backing toward the tree. But you need anchors, physical objects, mementos. The thing's smile faltered. That's how you trapped them. You took something from each victim, something personal, something with emotional resonance, and you used those objects to store their voices. I dove for the pile, grabbing Emily's jacket and yanking it away. Underneath was a small device, about the size of a smartphone, but made of some kind of crystalline material that pulsed with internal light. The thing that wasn't Emily screamed, and the sound shattered every piece of glass in a 100-yard radius. My radio exploded. My watch face cracked. The lenses of my binoculars turned to powder. Give it back! The Emily voice was distorting now, becoming something inhuman. "Give it back or I'll make you watch while I wear your daughter's face." I raised the crystal device over my head, ready to smash it against the tree trunk. Wait. The voice was different now. Smaller, frightened. Emily's real voice. "Please. If you destroy that, I'll die. Really die. It's the only thing keeping my consciousness intact." I lowered my hand slowly. The Emily thing was still standing at the edge of the clearing, but it looked different now. Less solid, like a projection. Emily? The real Emily? It caught me when I wandered off the trail. I was following what I thought was a rare species of ghost fungus, but it was just it imitating the bioluminescence. When it trapped me, it stored my voice in that device along with all the others. How do I get you out? You can't, but you can stop it from taking anyone else. The device is its heart, its source of power. If you break it, the voices will be free, but you'll die. I'm already dead, Christopher. My body is somewhere in these woods, probably buried under that tree. What you're hearing is just an echo, a recording. But the thing, the imitator, it's real, and it's hungry. It feeds on desperation, on the love people feel for the missing. Every search party, every rescue operation, every family member calling out for someone who's never coming home. It makes it stronger. The Emily thing at the edge of the clearing was getting more solid again, more real. It was fighting for control. Break the device, Christopher. Do it now before it's too late. Emily. I could barely speak. Your parents. They love you so much. I know. Tell them I wasn't scared at the end. Tell them I thought about them. I raised the crystal device again, and this time I brought it down hard against the tree trunk. The sound it made when it shattered was like every voice in the world crying out at once. The Emily thing dissolved like smoke, its scream cutting off mid-note. The forest around us began to shift and change, the blood-red sky fading back to normal October gray, the grasping tree branches returning to their natural positions. And in the sudden silence, I heard something that made my blood freeze. My own voice calling from deep in the woods. "Sarah? Sophie, can you hear me? I'm lost, I need help." The imitator hadn't been destroyed. It had just been freed from its anchor, and now it was using my voice to call my family. I ran toward the sound, crashing through the underbrush, jumping fallen logs, pushing myself beyond exhaustion. My phone had one bar of signal, cutting in and out. I tried calling Sarah, but the call wouldn't go through. "Sarah? Sophie? Daddy's hurt. Come find me." My own voice, perfect in every detail, coming from the direction of the main trail. If Sarah had gotten worried and decided to come looking for me, if she'd brought Sophie. I burst out of the tree line onto the Fairy Falls Trail and saw them. Sarah, 7 months pregnant and struggling with the uneven terrain. Sophie, running ahead in her purple dress and tiny hiking boots, following the sound of Daddy's voice calling from deeper in the forest. "Sophie, stop!" I screamed. She turned around confused. "Daddy, but you're over there. You said you were hurt." Sarah looked at me, then toward the woods where my voice was still calling, her face pale with terror and understanding. "Christopher," she whispered. "What the hell is going on?" I grabbed Sophie and picked her up, holding her tight against my chest. Her small arms wrapped around my neck, and she smelled like strawberry shampoo and safety. "We're leaving. Right now." As we hurried back down the trail toward the parking area, I could hear my own voice behind us getting fainter but more desperate. "Sarah? Sophie? Please don't leave me here. I'm scared. I'm all alone." We didn't stop until we reached the truck. I loaded my family inside and drove straight to the ranger station, where I submitted my report and requested immediate transfer to a different park. Any park, as far from Yellowstone as possible. The official investigation found Emily Martinez's body buried at the base of the ancient Douglas fir, along with the remains of 6 other missing persons dating back to 1987. The cause of death was listed as exposure and animal predation, though the medical examiner privately told me that Emily appeared to have died of dehydration, despite being found less than a quarter mile from a freshwater stream. I never told anyone about the crystal device or the voices. Who would believe me? Instead, I focused on the facts. 7 families finally got closure. 7 missing persons cases were officially closed, and the Fairy Falls Trail was permanently restricted to guided tours only. But sometimes, late at night when the wind is howling through the pines, I can still hear it. My own voice calling from somewhere in the darkness, and I know that somewhere out there the imitator is still hunting, still collecting voices, still waiting for the next search party to come looking for someone they'll never find. The worst part? Sometimes I catch myself responding to the call. Sometimes I find myself walking toward the sound of my own voice, knowing it's a trap but unable to resist the pull of something that sounds so perfectly, impossibly like me. That's when I remember Emily's words. I collect voices, Christopher, and yours are going to be particularly sweet. I think it already has mine. I think it's had it all along. And someday, when I'm not strong enough to resist anymore, I'm going to follow that voice into the woods and join the chorus of the lost. But not tonight. Tonight I'm home with my family, holding them close and pretending I don't hear the whispers in the wind. Holy hell, that was intense. Did that ending blow your mind? Like, if you want more terrifying ranger stories, follow for daily supernatural horror, and comment your theory about what really happened to Emily. I read every single one. My name is Michael, and I should have trusted my instincts when I saw Nicole disappear 3 meters ahead of me on the Cascade Ridge Trail. I've been a ranger at Olympic National Park for 17 years, seen everything the wilderness can throw at you. Hypothermia cases, bear attacks, climbers falling off Angel's Rest. Hell, I've pulled 14 bodies out of these woods and saved twice that many lives. When you've got that kind of experience, you develop instincts. Your gut tells you when something's wrong before your brain catches up. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened at 2:47 p.m. on October 13th, 2018. Nicole Henderson, 26, from Portland, blonde hair and a ponytail, wearing that bright red North Face jacket that made her easy to spot through the Douglas firs. She'd been hiking alone, which always makes us nervous, but she seemed competent. Good boots, proper gear, had filed her hiking plan with the visitor center, everything by the book. I was doing my afternoon patrol when I spotted her on the ridge trail, maybe 50 yards ahead. Called out a friendly, "How's the hike going?" Because that's what we do. Make contact, assess the situation, offer help if needed. She turned, waved, shouted back, "Beautiful day for it," with this huge smile. I checked my watch. 2:47 p.m. exactly. I remember because I was thinking about Jennifer, my wife, probably picking up our daughter Emma from school right about then. Same routine every day for the past 8 years. Nicole turned back toward the trail. I looked down at my GPS unit for maybe 3 seconds, confirming our position on the digital map. When I looked up, she was gone. Not walking away gone. Not around the bend gone. Gone. I called her name, jogged to where she'd been standing. Her footprints just stopped. No signs of struggle, no blood, no torn fabric on the surrounding branches. It was like she'd evaporated. My radio crackled. "Base to Michael, what's your 20? "Cascade Ridge Trail, mile marker 3.2, I responded, scanning the tree line. "I've got a possible missing hiker situation." "Copy that. Details?" I started to explain, but something felt wrong. Not just Nicole's disappearance, something else. The light seemed different. Dimmer. I checked my watch again. 2:47 p.m. That couldn't be right. I'd been searching for at least 10 minutes. I tapped the watch face, figured it had stopped. Pulled out my phone. 2:47 p.m., October 13th, 2018. "Base, disregard that last transmission," I said into the radio, confused. "What transmission, Michael? You've been radio silent for the past hour." My blood went cold. I just talked to them. I remembered keying the mic, hearing dispatcher Sarah's voice. But my radio log showed no outgoing transmission since 1:30 p.m. I looked back down the trail. There was Nicole, maybe 50 yards ahead, that red jacket bright against the autumn foliage. "How's the hike going?" I called out, the words feeling strange in my mouth like I'd said them before. She turned, waved, shouted back, "Beautiful day for it," with that same huge smile. My watch read 2:47 p.m. If this story is giving you chills, smash that follow button for more supernatural horror. What would you do in Michael's situation? Comment below. I wanted to run, but 17 years of training kicked in. Document everything. Follow protocol. There had to be a logical explanation. I pulled out my field notebook, started writing. October 13th, 2:47 p.m. Hiker Nicole Henderson, red jacket, blonde ponytail. But my pen felt heavy. My handwriting looked shaky. When I blinked, the words seemed to swim on the page. Nicole turned back toward the trail. I forced myself to keep watching this time, not look away for even a second. She took 3 steps forward, her left boot crunching on fallen maple leaves. And then, it wasn't like she faded or melted or got swallowed up. One moment she was there mid-stride, and the next moment the space she occupied was empty. The leaves she'd been about to step on were undisturbed. My radio crackled. "Base to Michael, what's your 20? I stared at the radio in my hand, finger hovering over the talk button. Deja vu crashed over me like a physical force. I'd lived this exact moment before. "Base to Michael, please respond." "I'm here," I managed. "Everything okay out there? You sound rattled." Did I? I felt rattled. My heart was hammering against my ribs and my hands had developed a fine tremor. The kind you get when your blood sugar crashes, except I'd eaten a protein bar just... When had I eaten? I couldn't remember. Couldn't remember anything clearly except watching Nicole disappear over and over and over and over. I checked my watch. 2:47 p.m. "Michael, report your status." I keyed the mic with a shaking finger. "Base, I need backup at Cascade Ridge Trail, mile marker 3.2. I've got a... situation." "What kind of situation? How do you explain that time keeps resetting? That you've watched the same woman vanish multiple times? That you're starting to question your own sanity?" "Possible missing hiker," I said finally. "Copy. Dispatch teams en route. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I could handle 20 minutes. I'd handled worse. That flash flood evacuation in 2014. The lost child case that went 3 days. The time I had to rappel down Eagle's Cliff to pull out that broken-legged climber. 20 minutes was nothing. I looked down the trail. Nicole was there again. Red jacket bright against the trees. My notebook was blank. All my previous entries gone. But my pen felt familiar in my hand, like I'd been writing with it for hours. "How's the hike going?" I called out, and this time I heard the desperation creeping into my voice. She turned, waved, shouted, "Beautiful day for it." And something in her expression looked different. Not her smile. That was the same. But her eyes. There was something wrong with her eyes. They looked knowing. Like she was aware of what was happening. Like she was enjoying it. I ran toward her this time, crashing through the underbrush, branches tearing at my uniform. "Wait, don't move, don't take another step." But she did. 3 steps forward, left boot crunching on maple leaves, and then nothing. Empty space where a person had been. My radio. "Base to Michael, what's your 20? I screamed. The sound echoed off the ridge, bouncing back from the granite cliffs like the mountain itself was laughing. Birds exploded from the trees, a cloud of ravens and crows that circled overhead, cawing in patterns that almost sounded like voices, like they were saying again, again, again. I checked my watch through tears I didn't remember shedding. 2:47 p.m. This time I didn't answer the radio. Instead, I sat down hard on a fallen log and tried to think. 17 years of experience had to count for something. There were protocols for everything. Flash floods, avalanches, aggressive wildlife, medical emergencies. What was the protocol for temporal anomalies? I laughed, a bitter sound that scared me more than Nicole's disappearance. There was no protocol for this because this wasn't possible. Time didn't reset. People didn't vanish into thin air. Rangers didn't lose their minds on routine patrols. Except maybe they did. Maybe the stress of the job finally caught up with me. Maybe I was having some kind of breakdown. Jennifer had been worried about me lately. said I'd been distant, distracted. Emma had asked why Daddy was so sad all the time. Was I sad? I couldn't remember feeling much of anything lately except tired. Bone-deep tired. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jennifer. "How's your day going, honey? Emma has a soccer game at 4:30 if you can make it. Love you." I checked the timestamp, sent at 2:30 p.m. I'd seen this message before. I remembered typing back. Should be able to make it. Love you too. But when I checked my sent messages, there was nothing there. I looked up. Nicole was walking toward me now, not away. Still in that red jacket, still smiling, but she was off the trail, moving through the trees directly toward where I sat. "You're starting to understand," she said, and her voice carried impossibly well across the distance between us. This was new. This hadn't happened before. "Understand what?" I called back, standing slowly, hand instinctively moving to the bear spray on my belt. "That you're not in control anymore, Michael." She was closer now, maybe 20 feet away. "That you never were." Her face was wrong. Still Nicole's face, still pretty and young and framed by that blonde ponytail, but the proportions were off somehow, like someone had copied a photograph imperfectly. "Who are you?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer would be worse than not knowing. "I'm the collector," she said, and now I could see that her feet weren't quite touching the ground. "And you've been watching my work. Where's the real Nicole?" "Safe, for now. Time moves differently where she is. A minute here could be years there, or seconds, or centuries. It depends on my mood." The temperature dropped 20 degrees in an instant. My breath came out in white puffs, and frost began forming on the nearby leaves despite the October warmth. "What do you want?" "You." The thing wearing Nicole's face smiled, and I saw that her teeth were too sharp, too numerous. "A park ranger with 17 years of experience. The stories you could tell, the memories you've accumulated, the love your family has for you. Oh, Michael, you have no idea how delicious that kind of love tastes when it turns to grief." I keyed my radio. "Base emergency at Cascade Ridge Trail. Requesting immediate backup and medical assistance." Static. "Base, do you copy?" More static. The Nicole thing laughed. "Time is my domain here, Michael. Your backup will never come because they exist outside this moment. It's just you and me. Forever frozen at 2:47 p.m. October 13th, 2018. People will look for me." "Will they? How long have you been missing? Your body is sitting catatonic in your truck at the trailhead. Has been for, how long do you think? Hours? Days? Your wife is very worried. She's called the park service 17 times. Jennifer, the thought of her panicking, of Emma asking where Daddy was, sent a surge of rage through me that burned away the fear. You son of a bitch. Now there's the spirit I was hoping for. The thing's grin widened. Rage makes the memories so much more vivid when I extract them. I've faced down charging black bears. I've rappelled into raging rivers to pull out drowning hikers. I once spent 3 days tracking a lost child through a blizzard, surviving on melted snow and determination. 17 years in these mountains had taught me that the wilderness doesn't care about your fear. It only respects action. So I acted. The bear spray hit the Nicole thing center mass from 15 feet away. It shrieked, a sound like metal tearing, and its false form began to waver and distort. For a moment I saw what it really was. Something tall and impossibly thin, with too many joints and fingers like twisted branches. Its true face was a void filled with swirling darkness and distant stars. "Clever," it hissed, its voice now a layering of dozens of different tones. "But you can't run from time itself." I was already running. Behind me, I heard the sound of reality tearing, like fabric ripping, but deeper, more fundamental. The forest around me began to shift and blur. Trees aged decades in seconds, their leaves falling and growing back in rapid cycles. The trail beneath my feet cracked and healed, cracked and healed. My radio crackled. "Base to Michael, what's your 20? But I didn't stop to answer. I knew now what I had to do. The thing could control time, could reset our encounter infinitely, but it had made one mistake. It had told me the truth about my body being at the trailhead. That meant there was still a connection between this temporal prison and the real world. I had to break that connection. I ran harder than I'd ever run in my life, crashing through undergrowth, leaping over fallen logs, the thing's inhuman shrieks echoing behind me. The forest kept shifting around me. Sometimes autumn, sometimes winter, sometimes spring, with everything blooming at once. But I kept my eyes fixed on one constant: the trail markers. Those green metal signs were the same in every temporal iteration. They were my anchor to reality. Mile marker 3.0, 2.5, 2.0. "You cannot escape," the thing roared, and I felt time itself grab at me like quicksand. My movements slowed, each step becoming harder than the last. But I thought about Jennifer's smile when I came home each night, Emma's laughter when I pushed her on the swings, the way they both hugged me like I was the most important thing in their world. Love, the thing had said. It fed on love turned to grief, but it hadn't considered love transformed into strength. Mile marker 1.5, 1.0, 0.5. I could see the trailhead parking lot now and my truck sitting there exactly as I'd left it. I could see myself behind the wheel, head slumped forward, eyes open but unseeing. The thing caught up to me at the parking lot boundary. I felt its cold presence at my back, felt time trying to reset again, pulling me back toward that cursed moment at 2:47 p.m. "You belong to me now," it whispered in Nicole's stolen voice. "No," I gasped, reaching for my truck's door handle. "I belong to them." I touched the metal handle and felt electricity shoot through my entire body. Reality snapped back like a rubber band, and I was sitting in the driver's seat, gasping and shaking, my radio crackling with concerned voices. "Michael, this is Base. Your GPS shows you've been stationary for over 4 hours. Please respond." I keyed the mic with trembling fingers. "Base, this is Michael. I'm okay. Returning to station now." "Copy that. Medical is standing by if needed." I started the truck and backed out of the parking space, my hands still shaking. In the rear-view mirror, I saw a figure in a red jacket standing at the trailhead entrance. Nicole. The real Nicole. She was dirty, disheveled, and looked like she'd been wandering in the woods for days, but she was alive and real and casting an actual shadow. I stopped the truck and got out. "Nicole? Nicole Henderson?" She turned and her face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank God. I've been lost for... How long have I been lost? What day is it?" "October 13th. You've been missing for about 6 hours." 6 hours? It felt like weeks. I kept walking in circles and the trail kept changing, and there was this thing that looked like... She shuddered. "Never mind. It doesn't matter now." As I called in her rescue and wrapped her in an emergency blanket, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My watch had stopped at 2:47 p.m., and it was still stopped. Holy hell, that was intense. Did that ending blow your mind? Like, if you want more terrifying Ranger stories, follow for daily supernatural horror, and comment your theory about what really happened to Nicole. I read every single one. The end. Michael returned home that night to find Jennifer and Emma waiting with his favorite dinner and worried hugs. He never spoke about what happened on Cascade Ridge Trail, but he never worked alone in the deep woods again. And sometimes, on quiet autumn afternoons when the light hits the trees just right, he still checks his watch to make sure time is still moving forward. Nicole Henderson recovered fully, and now leads wilderness safety seminars. She has no memory of her time in the temporal loop, but she refuses to hike alone and won't wear anything red. The Cascade Ridge Trail was temporarily closed for geological assessment, but reopened 3 months later. Park rangers are required to hike it in pairs, and all personnel carry atomic clocks synchronized with the National Institute of Standards and Technology. My name is John, and I watched Amanda disappear 3 meters in front of me on the trail before she just vanished. What happened that autumn of 2018 in Olympic National Park changed everything I thought I knew about my job, about reality, and about the sounds a forest can make when something very, very wrong is watching you. I'd been a ranger for only 8 months. 8 months of trying to prove I deserved the badge, that I wasn't just another city kid trying to play hero in the wilderness. Every call was a chance to show I knew what I was doing, even when my heart pounded so hard I was sure everyone could hear it through the radio. It was October 15th, Monday, 2:47 p.m. to be exact. I know because I checked my phone the exact moment Amanda first screamed my name. We were on the Ho River Trail, the densest section of temperate rainforest. Amanda Chen, 23 years old, UW biology student doing research on mosses for her thesis, black hair in a ponytail, army green backpack, new Merrell hiking boots that made that specific sound of fresh soles against wet leaves. She'd stopped me on the trail at 2:30 p.m., lost, looking for a specific type of moss that only grew on fallen logs in low-light areas. "Excuse me, Ranger, can you help me find research area B7? I have the coordinates here, but I think I took the wrong trail." Her voice was clear, slightly high-pitched, with a faint accent I couldn't place. Not particularly memorable, just normal, human. I should have known the area better. Should have known exactly where B7 was without consulting my GPS 3 times. But I was a rookie, and rookies check maps. Rookies double-check. Rookies don't assume they know. "Sure, it's just ahead, about 400 meters up the trail, then you take the left fork. I can walk you there if you want. I'm doing my rounds anyway." The relief on her face was genuine. "Oh, thank you. That would be great. I hate getting lost alone." We walked together for 15 minutes. She talked about her research, about how different moss species indicated humidity levels and air quality. I half listened, half worried, because I didn't know the answers to half her questions about local ecology. Rookie problems. The smell was typical Olympic in October. Wet pines, sodden earth, that sweet aroma of decomposition that indicates a healthy forest. My left boot was starting to give me a blister, but I wasn't going to complain. Rangers don't complain about blisters. "It's just up ahead," I said, pointing to where the trail divided. "You'll recognize the area by the fallen logs in a peculiar formation, almost like they..." And then Amanda wasn't there anymore. It wasn't like in the movies. There was no scream cutting through silence, no sound of breaking branches or disturbed leaves, no flash of light or mysterious fog. 1 second she was beside me talking about spores, and the next second I was talking to myself. My heart stopped, literally stopped for a second before racing like a failing car engine. "Amanda?" My voice came out strange, higher than normal. "Amanda, where are you?" Silence. I spun in a circle, searching. The trail was narrow there, bordered by giant ferns and moss-covered fallen logs. There were no places to hide, no ravines or slopes, nothing. "Amanda!" I shouted louder, my voice echoing through the trees abnormally, as if the forest was swallowing the sound. I grabbed my radio with shaking hands. "Central, this is Ranger John, code 1054, possible missing person on Ho River Trail, coordinates." "John." I froze. It was Amanda's voice, clear as crystal, coming from somewhere to my left, beyond the ferns. "Amanda? Where are you? Stay where you are, I'm coming to get you." I pushed through the ferns, following the sound. Wet branches whipped my face, leaving cold trails of moisture. My uniform was soaked in seconds. "John, help me. I'm lost." The voice was coming from further ahead now, deeper in. I ran toward it, stumbling over roots, my radio bouncing on my belt, making that annoying metallic noise. "Keep talking, Amanda, I'm coming." "John." I stopped. The voice had come from behind me now. I turned, breathing hard, cold sweat running down my back despite the low temperature. "Amanda?" Silence again. I grabbed the radio. "Central, Ranger John 1054 confirmed. I need backup on Ho River Trail, Section B7. Missing person with unusual behavior." "Copy, John. Backup en route. ETA 20 minutes. Are you okay?" Before I could answer, my radio crackled with static and a different voice emerged. John, this is Amanda. I made it to my car. Thanks for the help with directions. I'm driving back to Seattle now. My blood froze. It was definitely Amanda's voice, but it made no sense. There was no road nearby. No way she could have reached any car. Central, are you hearing this? Hearing what, John? Your transmission cut out for a second. The woman, Amanda, she just spoke on the radio saying she was at her car. Long pause. John, we don't have any transmission from Amanda. Only you on the frequency. Are you okay? Do you need medical assistance? The world began spinning subtly. A rookie being questioned about competence was my worst nightmare, but this was beyond competence. Negative, Central. Continuing search. I turned off the radio and tried to think logically. People don't just disappear, especially not 3 meters away on an open trail. There was a rational explanation. Maybe she'd panicked when she got lost, ran off. Maybe Johnny, my nickname. Only my family called me that. My wife Sarah when she was teasing me. My 5-year-old daughter Emma when she wanted attention. The voice came from above. I looked up at the canopy, but there was nothing beyond interwoven branches and golden autumn leaves. Johnny, come up here. It was Emma's voice, exactly like when she called me from the tree in our backyard at home in Tacoma. Same inflection, same playful tone. But Emma was 200 kilometers away, at school. Emma, I whispered, feeling like an idiot. Emma, baby, what are you doing here? Come play with me, Daddy. Climb the tree. Tears began forming in my eyes without me understanding why. Pure terror, maybe. Or the gradual realization that something fundamentally wrong was happening and I didn't have enough experience to handle it. I grabbed my phone. 1 bar of signal. I dialed Sarah. Hello? Sarah, thank God. Listen, where's Emma right now? John, she's at school, obviously. It's 3 o'clock. She doesn't get out until 3:30. Why, are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. Are you sure she's at school? You dropped her off today? John, you're scaring me. Of course I'm sure. I dropped her off at 8 a.m. like always. What's happening? Before I could answer, I heard Sarah's voice coming from the trees around me. John, come home. Emma needs you. Leave that stupid forest and come home. But Sarah was still on the phone. I could hear her breathing, waiting for my answer. Sarah, did you just tell me to come home? What? No. I just asked what was happening. John, you're really worrying me. The 2 Sarah voices spoke simultaneously, one through the phone, another from the forest. Phone. John, talk to me. What's happening there? Forest. John, you're a pathetic ranger. Let Amanda die like you let your father die. I hung up the phone. My father. Nobody knew about my father except Sarah. How I couldn't save him when he had the heart attack in our backyard when I was 12. How I froze, didn't know what to do. Stood paralyzed watching him die. How that made me want to be a ranger, to never again be paralyzed when someone needed help. Who's there? I shouted at the forest. Who's there? My own voice answered me. It's me, John. It's you. And you know you're a failure. If this story is giving you chills, smash that follow button for more supernatural horror. What would you do in John's situation? Comment below. I staggered backward, tripping over a root and nearly falling. My breathing was coming in short, hot bursts. Panic attack. I knew the signs because I'd had a few during training when the pressure got too high. I focused on the techniques I'd learned. Deep breathing. Count to 10. Focus on concrete physical details. Douglas fir tree in front of me. Rough bark, grayish brown. Smell of resin. Western sword fern. Feather-shaped leaves, bright green, wet with mist. Sound of running water somewhere nearby. Probably a tributary of the Ho River. Reality. Concrete things. Things that make sense. I grabbed the radio again. Central Ranger John, I need guidance on protocols for... How do I explain this? for unusual situations in search operations. Copy, John. Supervisor Martinez is en route to your location. ETA 15 minutes. Continue search, keep us informed. Martinez. My supervisor, the guy who decided whether I'd continue being a ranger or go back to office work in Tacoma. The guy I was desperate to impress. John. It was Martinez's voice now, coming from somewhere to my right. John, where the hell are you? Been looking for you for an hour. But Martinez was 15 minutes away. Central had just confirmed. Martinez? I responded hesitantly. Here, idiot. Follow my voice. I'm stuck in some branches. Need help. There was something wrong with the tone. Martinez would never call me an idiot over the radio. He was too professional. And he'd grown up in these forests. He wouldn't get stuck in branches. But what if it was real? What if he really needed help and I ignored it because I was paranoid? Rookie dilemma. Follow protocols you're not sure about or ignore a call for help from your supervisor. I started walking toward the voice. Keep talking, Martinez. I'm heading your direction. Here, John, just ahead. Watch out for the... Damn, cut my arm on some branches. I pushed through a dense cluster of bushes, branches scratching my uniform. On the other side was a small clearing I'd never seen before, despite having studied maps of this area dozens of times. Martinez wasn't there. Nobody was there. But there were marks on the ground, footprints, drag marks, and something else. Blood. Small drops, dark red, leading from the clearing into the denser forest. Fresh blood. I knelt and touched a drop with my finger. It was still wet. Martinez, are you bleeding? Do you need medical assistance? Silence. I grabbed the radio. Central, Ranger John. Found evidence of injury in search area. Possible fresh blood. Requesting medical team as well. Copy, John. Medical team notified. Has Martinez arrived? Negative, Central. I don't see Martinez, but I heard his voice a few minutes ago. John, Martinez hasn't left Central yet. He's here beside me. Want to talk to him? The world tilted. Martinez was at Central. Hadn't left yet, but I'd heard his voice, clear as crystal, coming from the forest. John? It was Martinez's voice over the radio now. Are you okay? Central told me you're hearing voices. That wasn't how they described it, but technically it was true. Martinez, someone in the forest is imitating voices. Imitating your voice? Amanda's voice, my family's voices. I don't know how to explain it, but... John, were you on the trail alone the whole time? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. No, I was with Amanda Chen, UW student. She disappeared. That's why I'm doing a search. Long pause. John, we checked the entry records. There's no Amanda Chen registered today. No UW student with research permits. Impossible. I'd talked to her. We walked together. She asked me questions about Moss. She wore Merrill boots, army green backpack, black hair. Check again. She was here. I talked to her. John, I need you to return to Central, now. That's an order. Before I could respond, I heard Amanda's voice again. John, I'm down here. I fell in a hole. Please help me. The voice was coming from somewhere below me. I looked around and saw I was at the edge of a small ravine I hadn't noticed before, about 3 meters deep, covered with ferns and fallen logs. Amanda? Are you hurt? I think I broke my ankle. I can't climb up. Please, John, you're the only one who can help me. I looked at the radio. Martinez was waiting for an answer. Central was waiting for me to return. Protocol said to wait for backup before descending unstable terrain. But if Amanda was really down there, injured... I'm coming down, Amanda, hold on. I started descending the side of the ravine, using exposed roots for support. Wet earth stuck to my boots, making each step treacherous. My radio slipped from my belt and fell, disappearing among the ferns. Shit. Losing equipment was rookie mistake number 1. Amanda, keep talking so I know where you are. Here, John, right in front of you. I pushed through the ferns toward the voice. On the other side was an open space like a natural cave formed by fallen logs and large stones. Amanda wasn't there, but there was something else. Bones. human bones scattered across the cave floor. Some still had fragments of clothing, a deteriorated blue backpack, hiking boots of a brand I didn't recognize, and there was more blood, much more. The cave walls were stained with something dark that definitely wasn't mud. "Oh God," I whispered. "John." The voice came from behind me. It was my own voice again. "Now you know where Amanda really is." I turned slowly. Nothing there. Just shadows and ferns swaying gently. She wasn't real, was she? Amanda never existed. Very smart, Rookie Ranger. But the people whose bones you found here, those were real. I started backing toward the ravine wall, trying to think how to climb up without my radio. Without backup. Without anyone knowing exactly where I was. "What do you want?" My own voice laughed, a sound I'd never heard from myself. Cold. Cruel. "I want you to understand something, John. You always knew you weren't good enough to be a ranger. Always knew that someday you'd fail when someone really needed you. Like you failed your father." "Shut up. Your wife knows you're a failure. Your daughter will grow up knowing Daddy can't save anyone." Tears started running down my face. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, burning rage. "Shut up! Make me!" The voice wasn't coming from anywhere specific anymore. It was coming from everywhere. From the trees, from the ground, from the air around me. As if the forest itself was speaking. I climbed the ravine wall using only arm strength and rage. Earth crumbled under my feet. Branches cut my skin, but I kept climbing. When I reached the top, I was gasping and bleeding, but determined. Central, this is Ranger John. Emergency, emergency." I grabbed my phone, still had one bar. Dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Ranger John Thompson, Olympic National Park. I found human remains on Ho River Trail. Possible multiple homicide site. I need backup immediately." "Ranger Thompson, can you give your exact location?" Before I could answer, the operator's voice changed. It became Emma's voice. "Daddy, why are you lying? There are no bones. You're seeing things." I hung up the phone. The phone rang again. "John, you can't run from me forever." I hung up again and turned off the phone. I started running. Didn't know where, just away from that ravine, away from the voices, away from anything that didn't make sense. I ran through trails I recognized, then trails I didn't recognize, then places that weren't trails at all. Branches whipped my face, thorns tore my uniform, but I kept running. "John, stop running." It was Sarah's voice now, calm and loving. "Come home. Emma and I are waiting." I stopped, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't breathe anymore. I doubled over, hands on my knees trying to catch my breath. "Sarah," I gasped. "I'm here, baby. Look up." I looked up. Sarah was hanging upside down from a tree branch about 3 meters above me. Long blonde hair hanging down, pale face, open eyes looking directly at me. But it wasn't Sarah. Not really. There was something wrong with the face. The proportions were almost right, but not exactly. Like a mask that didn't fit perfectly. "Come up here with me, John. We can be together forever." I backed away slowly. "You're not Sarah." "Of course I am. I'm your wife, Emma's mother. Remember when we met at the cafe in Tacoma? You spilled coffee on my white blouse." It was true. That was exactly how we met. But how? "You remember because I remember, John. I have all your memories, all your voices, all the people you love." The thing that looked like Sarah smiled, but the smile was too wide. It had too many teeth. "What are you?" "I am hunger, John. Hunger for human connection. For years, I fed only on the sounds of lost people screaming for help before they died. But I discovered something much more nutritious. The thing began descending from the tree, moving unnaturally, as if its joints worked differently. I discovered I can feed on love, on the love people feel for those they call out to. The more love, the more terror when they realize they're being deceived. I kept backing away. The people in the ravine, lonely people mostly, not very nutritious. But you, oh John, you have a family that loves you desperately. A wife who worries when you don't call. A daughter who draws your picture and puts it on the refrigerator. The thing that wasn't Sarah was now on the ground, walking toward me. Each step made a wet sound, as if it were made of something that wasn't exactly flesh. When I use their voices, I feel all that love. It's delicious. Stop. But the most flavorful part comes when you finally understand you'll never hear their real voices again. When you understand I'll keep using their voices to lure other people. Your wife, perhaps. Your daughter. Something changed inside me. Fear transformed into something stronger. Something more dangerous. You won't touch my family. Oh, but I will. I'll use your voice to call them to the forest. Imagine Emma hearing you scream for help. Sarah running to save the husband she loves. And I'll be here, waiting. I pulled my ranger knife from my belt. Not much, 4-inch blade, mainly for utility use. But it's what I had. You don't understand, John. You can't hurt me. I'm not made of flesh like you think. To prove its point, the thing extended its arm. I could see through it as if it were made of dense fog. But I can hurt you, and I'll do it slowly while I use Emma's voice begging you not to die. The voice changed to Emma's. Daddy, don't leave me. Daddy, I'm scared. Something broke inside me. Not my fear, my control. I attacked the thing with the knife, slashing through its misty form. As expected, the blade passed right through, causing no damage. But then something unexpected happened. The creature screamed, not with my voice or Sarah's voice or Emma's, with its own voice, a sound like metal being scraped on stone, like wind howling through empty caves. Impossible, it said with Martinez's voice. How did you? I looked at my knife. The blade was glowing with a faint light, silver blue. Cold iron, I whispered, remembering something my grandfather used to say about forest creatures. You don't like cold iron. The thing recoiled, its form becoming less defined. It doesn't matter. Even if you hurt me, I'll never let you leave. This forest is mine, you are mine. Maybe. But first you're going to tell me where the real bodies of the people you killed are. Why? Because I'm a ranger. It's my job to bring people home, even if it's just their bones. For a moment, the thing seemed genuinely confused. You care about dead strangers more than your own life? It's what it means to be a ranger. The creature studied me for a long moment. When it spoke again, it was with its own terrible voice. You really believe that? Yes. Interesting. Most humans I encounter are cowards when faced with death. Maybe you're meeting the wrong people. The thing that had looked like Sarah began changing again, taking on a more nebulous, undefined form. There are 14 bodies scattered through this forest, Ranger John. 14 people who came looking for loved ones I called using their voices, all buried in places where they'll never be found. Show me where. In exchange for what? I thought for a moment. In exchange, I stay, but you leave my family alone. Forever. John, no. It was Sarah's voice again, but different. More real. More human. I turned. Sarah was standing at the edge of the clearing, eyes wide with terror. Behind her were Martinez and 2 other rangers I didn't recognize. Sarah, how did you get here? You didn't call back. I got worried. I came to the park, found your supervisor. They've been looking for you for hours. Martinez approached slowly, hands raised as if I were an injured animal. John, let's get you out of here. You don't look well. You don't understand. There's a creature here. It imitates voices, kills people. I looked where the creature had been. Nothing there. Just trees and shadows. John, Sarah said softly, you've been talking to yourself for 10 minutes. There's nobody here but us. No, it was here. It looked like you. Said it was going to use my voice to call Emma. Emma is at my mother's house. She's safe. You're safe. Martinez stepped closer. John, where's your radio? Fell in the ravine when I went looking for Amanda. What Amanda? And then I understood. Amanda had never existed. The creature had lured me into the forest by pretending to be a lost student. Everything that happened after, had it all been real? The bones, I whispered. In the ravine. There are bones there. Martinez and Sarah exchanged worried looks. What ravine, John? I pointed in the direction where I thought I'd climb down. There's a small ravine, full of human bones. 14 people. They followed me. We walked for 5 minutes through completely flat terrain. There was no ravine. John, Martinez said gently, there's no ravine around here. I've known this area for 20 years. I started shaking, but I saw it. I climbed down there. There were bones, blood. Honey, Sarah put her hand on my arm. When was the last time you slept properly? Ate something? I tried to remember. I'd woken up early, at 5:30, had only coffee, hadn't had lunch because... Amanda showed up before lunch, I mumbled, but Amanda had never existed. John, let's get you home, you need rest. As we walked back to the main trail, I tried to process what had happened. Hallucination? Psychotic break? Extreme sleep deprivation? But the knife? My knife was still glowing with that faint light. I looked at it. Common steel. No special glow. Sarah, I said as we reached the car. Did you call 911 today? No, why? Someone called saying they found human remains in the forest. Martinez frowned. We didn't receive any call like that. John, did you call 911? I tried to remember. Had I called? Or just thought I had? On the way home, sitting in the passenger seat while Sarah drove, I tried to organize the events in my head, distinguish what really happened from what I'd imagined. Amanda. Imaginary. The voices, auditory hallucinations, the ravine, didn't exist. The bones, products of my tired mind. The creature, psychotic break. It made sense. Rookie ranger under extreme pressure, working long hours, trying to prove competence. Sleep deprivation, dehydration, maybe even hypoglycemia. Perfect recipe for vivid hallucinations. But when we got home and Emma ran to hug me, something strange happened. Daddy, are you okay? I heard you calling me during school today. Sarah and I stopped. What do you mean, baby? During recess, I heard you shouting my name from the forest behind the school. I almost went to look, but the teacher told me to stay on the playground. My blood froze. Emma's school was 200 kilometers from Olympic National Park. Emma, Sarah said carefully, are you sure it was Daddy's voice? Of course, it was exactly the same, but it sounded sad, like Daddy was lost. That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat in the backyard with a cup of coffee, trying to understand what had happened. At 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? John. It was my own voice. It's not over yet. I hung up immediately. The phone rang again. John, you can't run from me forever. I hung up again and turned off the phone. I went inside, locked all the doors, closed all the windows. But when I passed Emma's room to check if she was sleeping, I heard my own voice whispering from somewhere inside the room. Emma. Emma, baby. Daddy's here. Emma was sleeping soundly, but her lips were moving slightly, as if she were whispering answers to someone. I entered the room and sat in the chair beside her bed, my ranger knife in my hand. The blade began glowing again with that faint silver light, because now I understood. The creature in the forest wasn't a hallucination. It was real, and it had followed me home, and I was the only one who could protect my family from it. I sat in that chair all night watching my daughter sleep, holding a knife that glowed against creatures that shouldn't exist. Because sometimes being a ranger means more than just protecting the forest. Sometimes it means protecting your family from the forest. Holy hell, that was intense. Did that ending blow your mind? Like if you want more terrifying ranger stories, follow for daily supernatural horror, and comment your theory about what really happened to Amanda. I read every single one. My name is Daniel, and I should have forgotten the case of Megan, but something brought me back to that cursed forest. The recording started playing again at 3:47 a.m., just like it had every night for the past 4 months. Static-filled, impossible, and coming through my personal handheld radio that I kept on my nightstand. The same Motorola XPR 755D that hadn't been turned on since I got home from my shift 12 hours earlier. Daniel, can you hear me? I'm still here. Still waiting. Megan's voice. Crystal clear through the white noise, exactly as I remembered it from our brief conversation last September, before she vanished without a trace from the Cascade Mountain trails. But Megan had been missing for 7 months. The official search had been called off after 3 weeks. Her family had stopped calling me after 5 months of dead ends. I sat up in bed, my wife Sarah stirring beside me. My hands were already shaking as I reached for the radio. The cold plastic feeling wrong against my palm. Too smooth, too warm, like touching skin instead of equipment. The green LED display showed impossible readings. Frequency 162,400, a no-AA weather channel that never carried voice transmissions. I know you can hear me, Daniel, the smart ranger, the one who understands frequencies and wave propagation better than those muscle-headed colleagues of yours. My mouth went dry. Megan had never spoken those exact words to me, but somehow they felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream. I grabbed my notebook, the same weatherproof write in the rain pad I'd carried for 8 years as a forest ranger, and started documenting. Time, frequency, ambient temperature, 68 degree, exact wording. My scientific training kicked in even as my rational mind screamed that this was impossible. Sarah, I whispered, shaking my wife's shoulder. Sarah, wake up. Listen to this. She opened her eyes, looked at the radio in my hands, then at the digital clock showing 3:50 a.m. Daniel, honey, the radio isn't even on. You're having another nightmare about that girl. But I could still hear Megan's voice, now mixed with what sounded like static and something else, something that made my skin crawl. Children singing, old hymns played backward, the sound of footsteps on autumn leaves. The coordinates are 47,321, 1 degree in, 121.1309 degree above. Iris Spring Trail, mile marker 3.2. Come find me, Daniel. I'm exactly where I've always been. I wrote down the coordinates with trembling fingers, even though I'd never given Megan those exact numbers. In fact, those coordinates placed her location about half a mile off the main trail, in terrain so steep and overgrown that our search teams had marked it as impassable. Sarah was fully awake now, watching me scribble in the notebook. Daniel, you're scaring me. What's wrong? I have to go back, I said, already reaching for my uniform. I have to check those coordinates. It's been 7 months. That poor girl is... she's alive. The certainty in my voice surprised even me. I know how this sounds, but I've been getting these transmissions. Radio calls. She's been trying to reach me. Sarah sat up, her face pale in the dim light from my radio's display. Honey, you've been obsessing over this case. Maybe you should talk to someone. Doctor Peterson said stress can cause... I'm not imagining this, I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. Sarah flinched. My daughter Emma's bedroom was right next door and I couldn't wake her. Not again. She'd already asked why Daddy had been having scary dreams about the lost lady. I softened my voice. Listen, I'll document everything. Take readings with the spectrum analyzer. If there's really something there, I'll have proof. If not, I shrugged, trying to look more confident than I felt. Sarah reached out and touched my face. Promise me you'll be careful, and promise you'll call Jim to go with you. Jim Hoffman was my supervisor, a 23-year veteran who thought my technical approach to ranger work was mostly useless showboating. He tolerated my equipment and data collection because my search and rescue success rate was 15% higher than the district average. But he'd never believe this. I promise, I lied. By 5:30 a.m., I was loading my pack with enough gear for a full day in the wilderness. GPS unit, backup radio, first aid kit, emergency shelter, 3 days of food, water purification tablets, and my pride and joy, a handheld spectrum analyzer that had cost me 2 months' salary, but could detect and analyze any radio frequency from 9 kHz to 3 GHz. The drive to the Ira Spring trailhead took 45 minutes in my Park Service Ford Ranger, the headlights cutting through morning mist that seemed thicker than usual. My dashboard radio stayed silent, but the handheld in my chest pocket crackled occasionally with what sounded like voice fragments. Daniel, waiting. So cold here. I parked at the empty trailhead and checked my gear one more time. The coordinates from Megan's transmission would put her about 3 miles into the forest, in an area our teams had marked as a low-probability search zone due to the terrain. Steep ravines, dense undergrowth, and a reputation among local hikers as a place where people got disoriented easily. The trail started normally enough. Well-maintained dirt path, clear trail markers, familiar territory I'd hiked dozens of times during the original search. But as I climbed toward the coordinates, something felt wrong. The forest was too quiet. No bird calls, no rustling of small animals. Even the insects seemed to have gone silent. At mile marker 2.8, my handheld radio exploded with activity. Daniel! Oh God, Daniel, I can see you. You're so close. Megan's voice was clearer now, desperate, filled with an emotion that made my chest tighten. I stopped hiking and pulled out my spectrum analyzer. The device showed massive radio frequency activity across multiple bands, 142 MHz, 462 MHz, even frequencies that weren't allocated for civilian use. Megan? Megan, if you can hear me, key your mic twice. 2 clear clicks came through the static. My heart rate spiked. This was real. Somehow, impossibly, Megan was alive and had access to radio equipment. I started moving faster, bushwhacking off the main trail toward the coordinates she'd given me. I'm coming, Megan. Keep talking so I can triangulate your position. The trees, Daniel, the trees are wrong here. They move when you're not looking. And the path keeps changing. I looked around and felt my blood chill. She was right. The trees did look wrong. Douglas firs growing next to maples that shouldn't exist at this elevation. Trail markers pointing in directions that made no topographical sense. Even my GPS was acting erratic, showing my position jumping around a 50-meter radius. Megan, what happened to you? How have you survived out here for 7 months? 7 months? Her voice carried genuine confusion. Daniel, I've only been here since yesterday. You were supposed to meet me at the parking lot, remember, for our date? My blood went ice cold. Megan and I had never had a date planned. We'd met exactly once, during the initial missing person interview with her family. She was 24, a graduate student in environmental science who'd come to the Cascades to collect soil samples for her thesis. I was 31, married, with a 5-year-old daughter. Megan, we never had a date planned. You went missing 7 months ago while hiking alone. Silence on the radio. Then softly, "That's not right, Daniel. That's not how I remember it." If this story is giving you chills, smash that follow button for more supernatural horror. What would you do in Daniel's situation? Comment below. I reached the coordinates at 47.3211 degree N, 121.1309 degree, and found nothing. No campsite, no signs of human habitation, no Megan. Just a small clearing surrounded by trees that seemed to lean inward, creating an unnatural canopy that blocked most of the sky. My spectrum analyzer was going crazy, energy readings across every frequency, but when I listened to my handheld radio, I heard only static. Megan? Megan, respond. Nothing. I spent 3 hours combing the area, taking soil samples, documenting GPS anomalies, recording everything with my digital camera. As the afternoon wore on, I started finding things that made no sense. A University of Washington soil sampling kit, still bright and new-looking despite supposedly being exposed to 7 months of Pacific Northwest weather. A water bottle with condensation on it as if it had been filled recently. And footprints. fresh boot prints in the soft earth. Size 7 women's hiking boots, exactly what Megan had been wearing when she disappeared. The prints led deeper into the forest, away from any established trail. Against my better judgment, I followed them. The deeper I went, the more disoriented I became. My GPS showed me moving in a straight line, but the landscape around me kept shifting. Familiar trees appeared in impossible configurations. Streams flowed uphill. The sun seemed to move backward across the sky, and the radio calls kept coming. "Daniel, where are you? I can't find the trail back." "I'm following your footprints, Megan. Keep talking." "What footprints? I haven't moved from this spot in hours." I looked down. The boot prints I'd been following had vanished. The forest floor showed no signs that anyone had ever walked there. Panic started creeping into my voice. "Megan, I need you to describe exactly where you are. What do you see around you?" "I'm in a clearing. There are 7 Douglas firs in a perfect circle, and in the center there's a rock formation that looks like a chair. And Daniel, there are other people here." "Other people? Who?" "I don't know their names, but they've been here a long time. They keep asking me to sit in the stone chair. They say it will help me remember." "Don't sit in the chair, Megan. Whatever you do, don't sit down." "Why not? They seem nice. They're just lonely. They want someone to talk to." The temperature dropped 20 degrees in a matter of seconds. My breath became visible, and frost began forming on the metal components of my radio equipment. The spectrum analyzer's display flickered and showed readings that violated basic physics. Negative frequencies, power levels that should have fried every circuit in the device. "Megan, you need to get away from those people. Start hiking toward any trail marker you can find." "But Daniel, you're one of them." My blood stopped cold. "What?" "You're sitting right across from me, in your ranger uniform. You've been here the whole time, asking me questions about my research, about why I came to the forest alone." I looked around wildly. I was standing in a dense grove of hemlock trees, nowhere near any clearing. "Megan, I'm not with you. I'm still trying to find your location." "Then who is this person wearing your face?" The radio went silent except for a sound that made every nerve in my body scream. The sound of someone screaming, cut off abruptly, followed by electronic feedback that shouldn't be possible on analog equipment. I ran, through undergrowth that tore at my uniform, over fallen logs that appeared and disappeared, past landmarks that existed in impossible combinations. My GPS spun wildly, showing me simultaneously in Washington, Oregon, and according to one reading, somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. After what felt like hours but showed as only 17 minutes on my watch, I burst onto the main trail. Real trail markers, familiar blazes, normal-looking trees. Behind me, the forest had gone completely silent. I made it back to my truck as the sun set, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The 45-minute drive home took 3 hours because I had to stop twice to vomit from the adrenaline crash. Sarah was waiting on the porch when I pulled into our driveway. "Did you find anything?" she asked. I almost told her everything, about the radio calls, the impossible coordinates, the footprints that disappeared. Instead, I just shook my head. False alarm. Equipment malfunction. That night, I locked my handheld radio in the garage and tried to forget what had happened, but at 3:47 a.m. I heard Megan's voice again. This time it wasn't coming from the radio, it was coming from Emma's room. I crept down the hallway and pressed my ear to my daughter's door. Inside, I could hear Emma's 5-year-old voice having what sounded like a conversation. "My daddy is a forest ranger," Emma was saying. "He helps people who get lost in the woods." "That's so cool," replied another voice. A woman's voice, Megan's voice. "I bet he's really smart. Does he know a lot about radios and science stuff?" "Uh-huh. Daddy has lots of radios, and he has a special computer that can hear secret frequencies that other people can't hear." "Secret frequencies? That sounds amazing. Do you think your daddy would want to help me? I'm lost in the woods and I need someone really smart to find me." I burst through the door. Emma was sitting in her bed holding her toy walkie-talkie, a pink plastic thing from the dollar store that had never worked and didn't even have batteries. "Emma, Who are you talking to? She looked up at me with innocent 5-year-old eyes. The lost lady, Daddy. She says she knows you. The toy radio in Emma's hands crackled with static, and through the white noise, I heard Megan's voice one last time. Hello, Daniel. I've been waiting for you to bring your family camping. The forest misses you. I grabbed the toy radio and threw it against the wall where it shattered into pieces of plastic in silence. Emma started crying. Sarah appeared in the doorway, demanding to know what was wrong. And somewhere in the distance, barely audible beneath the sound of my family's voices, I heard the echo of children singing hymns backward. I never went back to the Ira Spring Trail. I transferred to a desk job in the city, told everyone I'd burned out on search and rescue work, but sometimes late at night I still hear radio transmissions that shouldn't exist. And sometimes when I'm driving past electronics stores, every radio in the window display turns on at once and plays the same message. Case file 2018-09-23. Missing person, Megan Elizabeth Crawford. Status, still waiting for pickup. The worst part? I've checked the official records. There was never a missing person case for anyone named Megan Crawford. She never existed at all. Holy hell, that was intense. Did that ending blow your mind? Like if you want more terrifying ranger stories, follow for daily supernatural horror. And comment your theory about what really happened to Megan. I read every single one. Tentar Nova Mente.